I think can get into this habit of mind that to be progressive or oppositional or to be a fighter for social justice means being critical, and being critical means being critical and wearing black and smoking a lot and being extremely negative. But what that has done is created this, I think, kind of really large vacuum where optimism can be subversive if it's reclaimed, and I think that we've just been shown that in some extremely eloquent and indeed quite moving ways. But I'm a discussant, and that means I can't just sit around and congratulate Mary on how wonderful her talk was and how optimism ought to be great. So I guess the theme of the short remarks I have here is just questions, criticism, a little bit of a pushback. Are things really all that good? So on and so forth. But I did want to preface these remarks by saying how refreshingly subversive I did find the good news and the optimism. So basically, three things along these lines. One has to do with the obviously diminished severity and diminished frequency of wars. And obviously one can't quarrel with the statistics. The information is there. But it leaves me with a kind of a disturbing question, because the phrase that I was always brought up with was that if you want peace, you work for justice. And the idea, I think, behind that slogan is that it's just social relations. It's human equality and fairness that is ultimately going to bring about the end of war. And so the thought that I'm left with is I really don't have a feeling that since the end of the Cold War, we've seen gigantic leaps forward in terms of just social relations and just social relationships. And so it leaves me with this kind of disturbing question of, have we learned a lesson that peace actually doesn't require social justice? What's behind those statistics? What does that mean? And I guess it makes me worried that anti-war campaigners who've learned so successfully to wield instruments like international public opinion, like international law, might also be forgetting the if you want peace, work for justice lesson. So that's one thought there.
You know, elite women are making gains in terms of the careers and advancement, while a disproportionate proportion of the poor are constituted by Aboriginal women, again, immigrant women, elderly women, and lesbian women. Those are the statistics, those are the facts. We haven't got laws that address that. Women are still left behind. Poor women are left behind, disabled women are left behind. So who's benefiting by the gains of the second wave feminist movement? I don't know, do you want me to say more? I can say more. We have to think about intersectionality, which is what I was talking about, the hierarchy in civil society. Civil society is not monolithic. There's an economy in civil society, just as there is an unequal economy in civil society, just as there is in the larger social system that we live in. So, realistically, it depends where you stand in that hierarchy, whether you think you're living in a great society or not. If you're living at the bottom of it, if you're homeless, if you go to the food bank, this isn't such a great nation to live in.
No, because the gap between the rich and the poor is increasing, not decreasing, and because we are not conscious enough yet in the North of what the consequences are of our actions toward the South. And no, I would say we're really just beginning. Let's still stay on the optimistic side and remember that the Declaration of Human Rights only came out in 1947, 48, whenever it was. We're really just in babyhood still in this direction, and yet you can see these massive changes in the world. So yeah, we're not there, and I don't want anyone to become complacent because we're getting successes. I want you to say, oh wow, we can do this, we can do more now. It's possible.
What I hope I can add to the conversation here is thinking about the ways in which education is a critical component of understanding how this kind of systemic and local change can happen, and that our efforts in bringing an educational focus to our work can, in fact, be a catalyst for change.
Finally, a question about the candle metaphor. And the metaphor is that it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. I think that's right. I guess I also think, though, that how do you know that you've lit the right candle? And how can you tell whether or not the candle's going to burn brightly long enough and shed enough light? And it's certainly the case. I think the politicians, corporate politicians, I think might like that metaphor, because that's kind of the way in which they sell their governance to the public with boutique programs. Oh, you're concerned about unemployment? Well, we've got 3 new programs. We've got this. Have you seen our website? We've got this. We've got that. And what gets lost then is how much good really is being done. The point simply being, I guess, to bring these remarks to a close, is that there's a difference between pointing to particular success stories and having a really convincing overall view that things really, really are getting better. And so what's the difference between lighting candles on the one hand or a kind of politics of distraction that just sells good news that might not, at the end of the day, add up to much?
The candle metaphor, you raise a really interesting question. And this is a question that I faced in writing the book. Am I just one of those Pollyanna people who seeks out the good stories and, meanwhile the rest of the world is going straight to hell, and I'm just noticing these little tiny candles that are lit here and there? And my conclusion by the end of it, because I actually signed the contract that there would be 101 solutions, and then I thought, I only know 50. What if there aren't 101? But as I started writing to people about their projects and saying, this is what I've written about your project, will you please check it for accuracy and send me back any others that you know of, I got many more than 1,000 of these examples. And that was when I started getting the hair standing up on the back of my neck. And I'm thinking, I think we are in the process of a global social revolution. I think that's what's happening. It's nothing short of that. And that I am seeing it. I'm seeing it when I go to the Philippines and I meet with the women in the Philippines or the women in Kenya. And I'm hearing what they're saying. And these women are at the microphone, and I know that they are not educated women, but they are saying social theory that you learn at university in economics or in political science. And I'm thinking, this is really amazing what is happening. And so it's possible that this is just a blip. And I guess my answer to that is to say, then get up and make sure it's not a blip. Don't leave it to anybody else to do. The job is not over till the fat lady sings, and we're not there yet. We've got to keep plodding on with this in every direction. I think that the trend away from war is a trend that's based in social justice. I think that's how we've got there. I don't think it's being forgotten. I think it's at the root of the whole thing.
You have heard Dr. Mary-Wynne Ashford at the Social Studies of the University of Victoria, giving you some examples of what has worked in the past for change in the world. If you have a social issue that needs to be changed, register your opinion about it on nowpolling.ca and find out how many others also want the same change in our lifetime. Let your opinion be counted. And remember, your participation is the essence of direct democracy.